Thank you very much. Senate President Sweeney, Speaker Prieto, Lieutenant Governor Guadagno, Chief Justice Rabner, members of the New Jersey State Legislature, friends and family, and my fellow New Jerseyans. Today I come before you to present my budget for fiscal year 2017. This is the 7th time I have presented a budget to this chamber, and I am proud to say this for a 7th time. This budget is balanced, and once again, it is balanced through fiscal responsibility and not on the backs of our citizens, because for the 7th straight year, this budget imposes no new taxes on the people of New Jersey. But before I start, I want to say thank you to the people of New Jersey for allowing me the great privilege of running for President of the United States. It was the governing experience I've had here in this great state, the reforms we tackled here in New Jersey, the bipartisan hard choices we made, and the recovery from one of the largest natural disasters in our nation's history that I felt prepared me for higher office. While the result was not what I had hoped for, and maybe some of you too, the experience has made me a better governor, it's made me a better American, and it's made me a better person. All that growth, all that improvement I owe to the people of New Jersey. And I intend to use it to make the next 2 years 2 great years for the state that we all love. We've got a lot more work to do here in our state, and I look forward to working together with all of you to get it done. Now, there are 2 key principles that are the foundations of the proposal that I'm sharing with all of you today. The first is fiscal restraint. Now, we've put New Jersey's financial house back in order, and we're going to keep it that way. The 2017 fiscal year budget calls for $34.8 billion in state appropriations. Important to note that discretionary spending is $2 billion less than it was in fiscal year 2008. Now, what that means is that 95% of all the growth in this budget is for pensions, government worker health benefits, and debt service. And we'll return to that subject later. Now, we've showed that smart fiscal management and focusing on our real priorities allows us to do with more with less. The days of taxing and spending and wasting taxpayer money have gone to the dustbin of history, exactly where they belong. The second principle is to continue advancing the hard reforms New Jersey needs so we can build a stronger economy and make this state a better place to live for our generation and for the next generation. These are the same principles that have underpinned everything our administration has done over the last 6 years, and we've seen the results. This budget builds upon these principles. In it, we meet our obligations, we further our commitment to the most vulnerable, and we continue to make investments in the future. This budget provides a pension payment that is the largest in our state history, more than any administration ever before, contrary to the hyperbole that you will hear from all these special interest groups. With the state no longer forced to rely on one-shot gimmicks, non-recurring revenues are at the lowest level in more than a decade, and I want to pause here for a moment. When we took office, one-shot revenues were 13% of the state budget. 13%. Today in the budget I introduce, they are less than 1%, 0.7%. That is the way you get rid of a structural deficit, is to stop relying on non-recurring revenues. That's fiscally responsible. That's what this administration stands for, and I hope you'll stand with me on that. And the surplus is higher than any budget due to our policies has nearly been cut in half in the last 6 years. We're now in our 6th consecutive year of private sector job growth and the fastest in our state last year in the last 15 years. Consider that for a moment. Since the turn of this century, private sector job growth in New Jersey has never been stronger than it is today, in this moment, under our leadership and our reforms. It's amazing because if you listen to the left-wing groups and some in this chamber, you would think it was just the opposite. But facts are stubborn things. How about the housing market? It's experienced double-digit growth in building permits, and they're at the highest number in a decade. In a decade. We've shrunk the size of our government, and we are doing more with less. We've achieved historic investment in our school system, seen our crime rates drop, and we've closed the state prison. We've helped thousands of people whose lives have been blighted by drug addiction to get a fresh start. All of this progress can lead us with continued reforms to a long-term, strong, and stable economic outlook. With every budget that I presented in this chamber, New Jersey has continued to advance down the path towards a future of greater justice and opportunity for everyone. Now, when it comes to making the investments we need, we've never hesitated, but we've shown that we can live within our means. And today, it's important that we continue to hold our course. Because no matter how much progress we've achieved, all of this can still be undone. That's right, reversed. The private sector job growth can be reversed. The housing market recovery can be reversed. The smaller government we've achieved could be bloated once again. We live in a time when our national economy and the global economy face new threats every day. New Jersey cannot stand alone. Our state has to be ready to weather the economic storms as well as the actual storms. In the 8 years before I took office, taxes and fees have been increased 115 times, making New Jersey the most heavily taxed state in the nation and placing an undue burden on residents and job creators alike. Since taking office, we've held the line on taxes. We vetoed the millionaire's tax every time it's come to my desk. We vetoed a legislative proposal to increase the corporate business tax. In fact, I vetoed 5 income tax increases passed by this body. As governor, I've also provided needed tax relief. Last year, raised the state earned income tax credit from 20% to 30% of the federal credit in concert with the signing of last year's budget. Our 2011 business tax reforms have saved the business sector over $3 billion. And by far the broadest impact benefiting New Jersey taxpayers was our collaboration on the 2% property tax cap, which has brought property tax growth to a near halt, averaging less than 2% statewide since we passed the cap. That compares to 7% per year in the 10 years before that law was enacted. We're making real progress rolling back taxes that should never have been enacted in the first place. If we stop exercising this type of fiscal restraint, if we back away from the reforms we all fought to achieve these past 6 years, then we're going to go back to the bad old days. Bureaucracy and mediocrity and wastefulness are like weeds. You need to keep ripping them out. And we know there are plenty of powerful special interests who roam these hallways who would like to go back to the old days of giveaways on the backs of our taxpayers. We need to continue our work together to enhance the competitiveness of New Jersey. Instead, however, just in the past 2 weeks, yet another economically irresponsible constitutional amendment was proposed by this body that would mandate a near doubling of the minimum wage, which will have a chilling effect on the steady growth of our small business sector. This proposed increase is on top of those imposed just 3 short years ago through, again, a constitutional amendment. The New Jersey Business and Industry Association just released a report on outmigration from New Jersey caused by high taxes and expensive mandates. Their study concluded that 2 million residents and $18 billion in annual income left our state over the last 10 years. I want to caution you that these facts are not debatable. They come directly from Internal Revenue Service statistics, not from the state. And they're not from the rantings of some left-wing think tank either. Now, are they leaving for Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina? Yeah. Their warmer climates and their more inviting tax structures are tempting. But who are the top two states we are losing citizens to? Pennsylvania and New York. The only thing warmer in those two states is the warmth from their lower taxes. Now, those who propose higher taxes and more regulation in this chamber need to look in the mirror and to our borders before they act. Because here are the facts. 62% of businesses surveyed said they would not open another location in New Jersey if they were to expand. 66% said they would not retire here. 67% said they take the estate and inheritance taxes into consideration when making their business decisions. This is not a hypothetical debate anymore. Much as the editorial pages would like to say otherwise, it's not a hypothetical debate. 2 million people and $18 billion have fled our state as a result of our tax and regulatory structure. And by the way, it's not just older New Jerseyans, and this is the really bad news. New Jerseyans 18 to 34 years old leave more than any other age group. What does that leave for us in the years ahead? If our 18 to 34-year-olds are leaving this state because they believe the future is better in Pennsylvania or New York than they believe it is in New Jersey, we have a major long-term problem. They leave, we lose both our retirees and our young people because our antiquated and tone-deaf tax policies are driving them out of here. The time to act is now, everybody. We need to act to save our state. Now, I, along with others, have already called for the repeal of the estate tax. What's the legislature done in response? They've called for yet another government-mandated doubling of wages and a constitutional amendment that will cause a $3 billion tax increase on all New Jerseyans. Where does it end? Some people in this room want to address the next generation of